Okay, our next video, I want to illustrate another couple of principles. One is that if you save small amounts of money early in your career, that yields a tremendous return relative to saving large amounts of money later in your career. So for this example, what I'm going to do is say we've got this savings column, and we're going to take this person who's 22 years old, and we're going to set up a scenario where they work for 10 years and then they never save anything else for the rest of their lives. Okay, so let's just say saving 10% entire life. That results in $3.56 million. All right. And now we're going to save 10% for 10 years. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're going to save from the time they're 22 till the time that they're 31, and then they're never going to save another penny. So I don't know, maybe their lifestyle got really complicated, or they developed some sort of health condition, or who knows, they developed some terrible expensive habit, or they had children, or for whatever reason they just decided to stop saving. Okay, so we've only saved for 10 years here, and then stop saving for the rest of our lives. And this person still ends up with $2.2 million. I mean, that's pretty impressive considering that they stopped saving when they were 31 years old. So let's go up here and put this right up in here. All right, and then there we go. Okay, so 2.2 million. So really a pretty sizable chunk of what they would have gotten from saving, and then they only saved $45,000, so they were saving $4,500 a year. So it's a pretty sizable chunk of what they were going to get saving for their entire lives. Okay, we've got that now. I'm going to go ahead and copy this cell again, just because we're going to go and try and do something a little bit different. Okay, let's take a person who now doesn't save early in their career. This is probably a pretty realistic scenario. People are young and they've got a lot of expenses. They got to buy a car and a house, and they got to save up for a wedding, so they delay savings. They don't save until later in their lives. What I'm going to do here is say that this person doesn't save at all until they are 45 years old. Okay, so 45 years old, and he doesn't save anything at all. And unfortunately, this is actually not an unrealistic scenario. This is what a lot of folks do. All right, so they're not going to save anything until they're 45, so they don't have any total savings. They don't have any ROI, so this is not an error over here. And they just start this savings when they're 45 years old. They end up with $357,000. It's horrible. All right. Now, even more horrible is out of that $357,000, $103,000 of it was money that they put in themselves. They put in almost a third of this amount just on their own. And then their money didn't really get enough of a chance to work for them, and they only ended up with $254,000. So we'll say save 10% after 45. And then, again, only $357,000. So what else do people do when they're in these shoes? They get old and they say, holy cow, I need some money so badly, and I realize that I haven't saved. So they start kicking up their savings rate. So instead of 10%, let's see here, 10% here. F24. Yeah, right. So instead of 10% of their savings, let's say this person saves 20% of their savings instead of 10%. Okay, so he's going to double the amount that he saves. All right, so 20% there. I'm going to just copy this down. And boom. And then, all right, well, he ends up with $700,000 now. But again, he's putting in a good chunk of this is just money that he's saving. His money hasn't had a chance to really work for him. So let's say save 20%. And then I'll just paste. Oh, must not have copied for me. Copy. There we go. Okay, and comma U. There we go. We'll just get rid of the pennies here. I think despite the fact that we're encouraging frugality, pennies are not really that important. Okay, so, well, 20% really didn't work out very well either. Well, let's see here. What if we try 30%? Let's put 30% in here and see where we get. Okay, 30%. We'll copy it down so the value's in all of these cells. And, well, he did get over $1 million now. He did get over $1 million. Okay, so a couple of things to consider here. One is that really you have to figure what is the likelihood that after a lifetime of not saving anything, that this person's going to have the self-discipline to start saving 1/3 of their salary. I mean, I guess it's possible. People get panicked. They do funny things, but this really doesn't seem like a very realistic assumption. All right, so again, we'll comma this guy, get rid of our decimal points. Okay, $1 million, still got less than half. All right, how much would he have to start saving here? Well, I don't know. I mean, it looks like he would have to go about let's try 65%. Does 65% get us there? This guy's going to save 2/3 of his paycheck now. All right. That is a monumental task. Okay, $2.3 million. Okay, if he saves 65% after he turns 45, then yeah, he does actually get to the point now where he's accumulated more than he would have saved by just saving 10% for 10 years. Now remember, in this example, he only had to put in $45,000. Here, he's putting in $670,000, right, instead of $45,000, and the return is relatively similar. Let's get rid of the things here. So let's take a look at what we've learned here. So, you know, just if you could just manage to bite the bullet for the first 10 years of your life, and especially if you're talking about something like a 401k, 401a, TSP, something like that, where you've got some tax advantage to the savings, then you weren't going to get all that money you're saving anyway. The tax man was going to take a big bite out of that. So, you know, look at it as, you know, for every dollar you save, really it only diminishes your take-home pay by maybe 75 cents or something, or, you know, 80 cents if you're early in your career and your tax rate isn't that bad. Saving just for 10 years, you actually end up with the lion's share of what you would get for saving for your entire life. Then really, if you wait until later, I mean, this guy saved 10% for 10 years, saved $4,500. Okay, this guy started at 45. He actually had to save for 23 years instead of 10. Save for 23 years instead of 10, and he would have to save 65% of his pay. 65% of his pay for 23 years instead of saving 10% of his pay for 10 years. Okay, so the point that we're trying to illustrate here is that saving small amounts of money early is going to yield a much bigger result than saving gigantic amounts of money later. And again, you know, these are theoretical situations that I'm putting up here. They were just meant to illustrate principles, but you have to have a little bit of mind toward realism here, and saving 65% of your pay, I don't know. I can't imagine, especially if you're talking about having some modest, you know, middle class wage like this. I just don't see how a person could possibly, even if all their kids have moved out and they paid off their house, I don't understand how a person could possibly save 65% of their pre-tax pay for retirement. So the best thing to do is just save a modest amount for your entire life. Next best thing to do, though, save a modest amount for the first few years of your career, and then leave that money alone, pretend you don't have it. So that's all for video number 2.